Prabhupada Ki Jai. Today we're hearing from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 1, text number 7. And it says, Sri Sukadeva Goswami continued, the first created being and most powerful demigod in this universe is Lord Brahma, who is always responsible for developing universal affairs. Born directly from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he dedicates his activities to the welfare of the entire universe, for he knows the purpose of the universal creation. One second. Second. And okay, then this supremely powerful Lord Brahma, accompanied by his associates and the personified Vedas, left his own abode in the highest planetary system and descended to the place of Prince Priyavrata's meditation. Priyavrata's meditation. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Self, Atman, is the source of everything, as explained in the Vedanta Sutra. Janmadyasya yata. Because Brahma was born directly from Lord Vishnu, he is called Atma Yoni. He is also called Bhagavan, although generally Bhagavan refers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu or Lord Vishnu. Sometimes great personalities, such as demigods like Lord Brahma, Narada, or Lord Shiva, are also addressed as Bhagavan because they carry out the purpose of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Brahma is called Bhagavan because he is the secondary creator of this universe. He is always thinking of how to improve the situation of the conditioned souls who have come to the material world to enjoy material activities. For this reason, he disseminates the Vedic knowledge throughout the universe for everyone's guidance. Vedic knowledge is divided into two parts, Pavrita Marga and Nivrita Marga. Nivrita Marga is the path of negating sense enjoyment. And Pavriti Marga is the path by which the living entities are given chance to enjoy and at the same time are directed in such a way that they can go back home, back to Godhead. Because ruling over the universe is a great responsibility, Brahma must force many Manus in different ages to take charge of universal affairs. Under each Manu, there are different kings who also execute the purpose of Lord Brahma. It is understood from previous explanations that the father of Dhruva Maharaja, King Uttanapada, ruled over the universe because his elder brother, Priyavrata, practiced austerity from the very beginning of his life, thus up to the point of of the Prachetas, the kings of the universe, were all descendants of Uttamapada Maharaja. Since there were no suitable kings after Prachetas, Swambhuva Manu went to the Gandha Madana hill to bring back his eldest son, Priyavrata, who was meditating there. Sri Swayambhuva Manu requested Priyavrata to rule over the universe. When he refused, Lord Brahma descended from the supreme planetary system known as Satyaloka to request Priyavrata to accept the order to accept the order. Lord Brahma did not come alone. He came with other great sages like Marichi, Atriya, and Vasista to convince Priyavrata that it was necessary for him to follow the Vedic injunctions and accept the responsibility of ruling over the world. Lord Brahma also brought with him the personified Vedas, his constant associates. A significant word in this verse is Swabhavanat, indicating that Lord Brahma descended from his own abode. Every demigod has his own abode. Indra, the king of the demigods, has his own abode, as do Chandra, the lord of the moon. The Gandha Madana hill and approached Prince Priyavrata, who was sitting there. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. It appears from this description that there is regular interplanetary travel between the planets of the demigods. Another significant point is that there is a planet covered mostly by great mountains, one of which is Gandhamadana Hill. Three great personalities, Priyavrata, Narada, and Swayambhuva Manu, were sitting on this hill. According to Brahma Samhita, each universe is filled with different planetary systems, and every system has a unique opulence. For example, in Siddhaloka, all the residents are very advanced in the powers of mystic yoga. They can fly from one planet to another without airplanes or other flying machines. Similarly, the residents of Gandharva Loka are expert in musical science, and those in Siddhaloka are all great saints. The interplanetary system undoubtedly exists, and residents of different planets may go from one to another. On this earth, however, we have not invented any machine that can go directly from one planet to another, although an unsuccessful attempt has been made to go directly to the moon. that's that's a that's a wonderful statement because they've been trying to go to the moon for 60 more than 60 years, and they claim they did go to the moon, but they're still trying to go to the moon. They never went to the moon, and they're never going to go to the moon, because the moon is a heavenly planet, and you can't go there without the permission of the residents of the moon. So anyway, there's so many false narratives today about the universal exploration. They've only actually I'm not going more than about 40 or 50 miles above of the Earth planet. Okay, so text number 9. Lord Brahma, the father of Narada Muni, and the supreme is the supreme person within this universe. As soon as Narada saw the great swan, he could understand that Lord Brahma had arrived. Therefore, he immediately stood up along with Swambhu Manu and his son Priyavrata, whom Narada was instructing. Then they folded their hands and began to worship Lord Brahma with great respect. Well, you have to do that. He is the most exalted person. Purport. As stated in the previous verse, Lord Brahma was accompanied by other demigods, but his specific carrier was the great swan. Therefore, as soon as Narada Muni saw the swan, he could understand that his father, Lord Brahma, who is also known as Hiranyagarbha, was arriving. Thus, he immediately stood up with Swayambhuva and his son Priyavrata to receive Lord Brahma and offer him respect. Text number 10. My dear King Parikshit, because Lord Brahma had finally descended from Satyaloka to Bhuloka, Narada Muni, Prince Priyavrata, and Swayambhuva came forward to offer him objects of worship and to praise him in highly qualified language according to Vedic etiquette. At that time, Lord Brahma, the original person of this universe, felt compassion for Priyavrata and looking upon him with a smiling face, spoke to him as follows. Purport by Srila Prabhupada, that Lord Brahma descended from Satyaloka to see Priyavrata indicates that the matter was very serious. Narada Muni had come to advise Priyavrata about the value of spiritual life, knowledge, renunciation, and bhakti. And Lord Brahma knew that Narada's instructions were very impressive. Therefore, unless Lord Brahma personally went to Gandha Madana Hill to request Priyavrata, Lord Brahma knew that Prince Priyavrata would not accept his father's order. Oh. Brahma's purpose was to break Priyavrata's determination. Therefore, Brahma first looked upon Priyavrata with compassion. His smile and compassionate features also indicated that although Brahma would request Priyavrata to accept household life, Priyavrata would not be out of touch with devotional service. By the blessings of a Vaishnava, everything is possible. This is described in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu as Kripa Siddhi, or perfection attained simply by the blessings of a superior person. One usually becomes liberated and perfect by executing the regulative principles set down in the Shastras. Nonetheless, many persons have achieved perfection simply by the blessings of a spiritual minister or superior. Priyavata was the grandson of Lord Brahma, and as joking competition sometimes takes place between grandson and grandfather, in this case also, Priyavata was determined to remain in meditation, whereas Brahma was determined that he rule the universe. Thus, Lord Brahma's affectionate smile and glance meant, "My dear Priyavata, you have decided not to accept household life, but I have decided to convince you that you must accept it." Actually, Brahma had come to praise Priyavata for his high standard of renunciation, austerity, penance, and devotion, so that he would not be deviated from devotional service, even though he would accept household life. In this verse, one important word is Sukta Vakena by Vedic hymns. In the Vedas, there is the following prayer to Lord Brahma. Hiranyagarbha samavarta tagre bhutasya chata patir eka asit. Brahma was received with the appropriate Vedic hymns, and because he was welcomed according to the Vedic etiquette, he was very pleased. Okay, so now we go to text number 11. Lord Brahma, the supreme person within this universe, said, "My dear Priyavata, kindly hear attentively what I shall say to you. Do not be jealous of the Supreme Lord, who is beyond our experimental measurements. All of us, including Lord Shiva, your father, and the great sage Maharshi Narada, must carry out the order of the Supreme. We cannot deviate from his order." Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Of the 12 great authorities in devotional service, 4, Lord Brahma himself, his son Narada, Swayambhuva Manu, and Lord Shiva were present before Priyavrata. They were accompanied by many other authoritative sages. Brahma first wanted to impress upon Priyavrata that although these great personalities are all authorities, they cannot possibly disobey the orders of the Supreme Personality Godhead, who is described in this verse as Deva, which means always glorious. The power, glory, and potencies of the Supreme Personality Godhead can never be diminished. In the Ishopanishad, the Lord is described as Apapa Vida, which means that he is never affected by anything materially considered sinful. Similarly, Srimad Bhagavatam describes the Supreme Personality Godhead as being so powerful that nothing we might consider abominable can affect him. An example sometimes given to explain the position of the Supreme Lord is that the sun, which evaporates urine from the earth, but is never affected by contamination. The Supreme Lord can never be accused of doing anything wrong. When Lord Brahma went to induce Priyavrata to accept the responsibility for ruling the universe, he did not go whimsically. He was following the dictations of the Supreme Lord. Indeed, Brahma, and other great authorities never do anything without his, meaning Krishna's, permission. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart. In the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said, Tene Brahma Hridaya Adhikavaye. The Lord dictated Vedic knowledge to Brahma through his heart. The more a living entity is purified by devotional service, the more he comes in direct contact with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As confirmed in Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Tesam satatayuktanam pachatam pratipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yenamam upayantite. To those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. Bhagavad Gita 10.10. Lord Brahma, therefore, had not come to Priyavata by his own whims. Rather, it is understood that he had been ordered to persuade Priyavata by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose activities cannot be understood by material senses, and who is therefore described here as aprameya. Thus, Lord Brahma first advised Priyavata to hear his words with attention and without envy. Why one is induced to perform certain acts despite his desire to do something else is indicated here. One cannot disobey the orders of the Supreme Lord, even if one is as powerful as Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, Manu, or the great sage Narada. All these authorities are certainly very powerful, but they do not have the power to disobey the orders of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Since Lord Brahma had come to Priyavrata in accordance with the orders of the Supreme Lord, he first wanted to dispel any suspicions that he might be acting as Priyavrata's enemy. Lord Brahma was following the orders of the Supreme Lord, and therefore it would be worthwhile for Priyavrata to accept Lord Brahma's order as the Lord desired. Text number 12. One cannot avoid the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not by the strength of severe austerities, an exalted Vedic education, or the power of mystic yoga, physical prowess, or intellectual activities. Nor can one use his power of religion, his material opulence, or any other means, either by himself or with the help of others, to defy the orders of the Supreme Lord. That is not possible for any living being, from Brahma down to the ant. Purport. In the Garga Upanishad, Garga Muni says to his wife, Etasyava aksarasya prasasane gargi surya chandra maso vidrito tistatat. Tishtata, my dear Gargi. Everything is under the control of the Supreme Personality Godhead. Even the sun, the moon, and other controllers and demigods like Lord Brahma and King Indra are all under his control. An ordinary human being or animal who has accepted a material body cannot go beyond the jurisdiction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead's control. A material body includes senses. However, the sense activities of so-called scientists who try to be free from God's law or the laws of nature are useless. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 7:14. Mama Maya Duratyaya. It is impossible to surpass the control of material nature. For the Supreme Personality of God is working behind it. Sometimes we are proud of our austerities, penances, and mystic yogic powers. But it is clearly stated herein that one cannot surpass the laws and directions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, either by dint of mystic power, a scientific education, or austerities and penances. It is impossible. The word manishaya, or intelligence, is of special significance. Priyavrata might argue that Lord Brahma was requesting him to accept family life and the responsibility for ruling a kingdom. Although Narada Muni had advised him not to enter household life and be entangled in material affairs, whom to accept would be a puzzle for Priyavata because both Lord Brahma and Narada Muni are authorities. Under the circumstances, the use of the word manishaya is very appropriate, for it indicates that since both Narada Muni and Lord Brahma are authorized to give instruction, Priyavata should neglect neither of them, but should use his intelligence to follow the advice of both to solve such a dilemma or to solve such dilemmas. Srila Rupa Goswami has given a very clear conception of intelligence. He says, Anasaktasya Vishayan Yatarham Upayanjataha Nirbanda Krishna Sambande Yukta Vairagyam Uchyate. Vishayan, material affairs, should be accepted without attachment, and everything should be dovetailed with the service of the Lord. That is real intelligence, Manisha. Becoming a family man or king in the material world is not harmful if one accepts everything for Krishna's service. That necessitates clear intelligence. Mayavadi philosophers say, Brahma Satyam Jagan Mitya. This material world is false, and only the absolute truth is real. However, an intelligent devotee in the line of Lord Brahma and the great sage Narada, or in other words, in the Brahma Sampradaya, does not consider this world false. That which is created by the Supreme Personality of Godhead cannot be false, but using it for enjoyment is. Everything is meant to be enjoyed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 5:29. Bhaktaram Yagitapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the Supreme Proprietor and Enjoyer. And therefore, everything should be dovetailed for his enjoyment and service, regardless of one's circumstances, favorable or unfavorable. One should use everything to serve the Supreme Lord. That is the perfect way to use one's intelligence. And that's very good advice. Okay, text number 12. One cannot avoid the order of the Supreme Personality Godhead, not by the strength of severe austerities and exalted Vedic education or the power of mystic yoga, physical prowess or intellectual activities, nor can one use this power of religion, his material opulence, or any other means, either by himself or with the help of others, to defy the orders of the Supreme Lord. That is not possible for any living being, from Brahma down to the ants. Wow. Right, what a statement that is. Purport. In the Garga Upanishad, Garga Muni says to his wife, Etashiva ak sarasya Gargi Surya Chandra Maso Vijrayate Drito Tistata, my dear Gargi, everything under control of the Supreme Personality, everything is under the control of the Supreme Personality Godhead. Even the sun, the moon, and other controllers and demigods like Brahma and King Indra are all under his control. An ordinary human being or animal who has accepted a material body cannot go beyond the jurisdiction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead's control. A material body includes senses. However, the sense activities of so called scientists who try to be free from God's law or the laws of nature are useless. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Mana Maya Durateya. It is impossible to surpass the control of material nature. For the Supreme Personality of Godhead is working behind it. Now, that's a very important statement of utmost importance. The modern so-called scientists are always trying to surpass or contradict uh, uh, um, the laws of material nature, thinking that they have uh, the power to do that. They don't. Like, for example, even going to the moon, they don't have the power to go to the moon. They say they did, but they haven't really gone to the moon, and they will never go to the moon. But still, they'll bluff and they say they did something that they didn't do. And then over time, 60 years later, they're still trying to go to the moon. So we should not be fooled by nonsense things. That's why it says here, Mama Maya Durateya, it is impossible to surpass the control of material nature, for the Supreme Personality of Godhead is working behind it. Sometimes we are proud of our austerities, penances, and mystic yogic powers, but it is clearly stated herein that one cannot surpass the laws and directions of the Supreme Personality Godhead, either by dint of mystic power, a scientific education, or austerities and penances. It is impossible. There it is. Wonderful statement. The word manishaya, by intelligence, is of special significance. Priyavrata might argue that Lord Brahma was requesting him to accept family life and the responsibility for ruling a kingdom, although Narada Muni had advised him not to enter household life and be entangled in material affairs. Now, here you have two very great uh, personalities, but they're giving different, advice to Priyarata. So, what to do? Because both, uh, you know, uh, exalted personalities are bona fide. Now let's see what's going to happen. Whom to accept would be a puzzle for Priyavata because both Lord Brahma and Narada Muni are authorities. Under the circumstance, the use of the word manishaya is very appropriate, for it indicates that since both Narada Muni and Lord Brahma are authorized to give instruction, Priyavata should neglect neither of them, but should use his intelligence to follow the advice of both. To solve such dilemmas, Sri Rupa Goswami has given a very clear conception of intelligence. He says, Anasaktasya Vishayan Yatar Ham Upayunjata Nirbanda Krishna Sambandhe Yukta Vairagyam Uchyate. Vishayan, material affairs, should be accepted without attachment, and everything should be dovetailed with the service of the Lord. That's very important instruction. That is real intelligence, Manisa. Becoming a family man or king in the material world is not harmful if one accepts everything for Krishna's service. Interesting statement. That necessitates clear intelligence. Mayavadi philosophers say, Brahma Satyam Jagan Mitya. That's a false statement. It sounds very nice. Brahma Satyam Jagan Mitya, meaning only the Supreme Personality God is the truth, and the material world is false. But that's a false statement. How can the material world be false if it is coming from the spiritual world? So Prabhupada says this material world is false and only the absolute is real. However, an intelligent devotee in the line of Lord Brahma and the great sage Narada, or in other words, in the Brahma Sampradaya, does not consider this world false. That which is created by the Supreme Personality of Godhead cannot be false, but using it for enjoyment is. Everything is meant to be enjoyed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 5:29. Bhaktaram Yagitapasam Sarvalokam Maheshwaram. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the Supreme Proprietor and Enjoyer, and therefore everything should be dovetailed for his enjoyment and service, regardless of one's circumstances, favorable or unfavorable. One should use everything to serve the Supreme Lord. That is the perfect way to use one's intelligence. Very important statements today. These verses are very important if you want to be Krishna conscious. If you ignore this and be a nonsense person, yeah, you can have a lot of theories, but they're all bogus. This is the truth. Okay, so text number 13. My dear Priyavrata, by the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, all living entities accept different types of bodies for birth and death, activity, lamentation, illusion, fear of future dangers, and happiness and distress. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Every living entity who has come to this material world has come here for material enjoyment. But according to his own karma activities, he must accept a certain type of body given to him by material nature under the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 3.27, Prakrite Kriyamana Niguna Karmani Sarvasaha. Everything is being done by Prakriti, material nature, under the direction of the Supreme Lord. Modern scientists do not know why there are varieties of bodies in 8,400,000 forms. The fact is that all these bodies are ordained for the living entities by the Supreme Personality of Godhead according to the living entity's desires. He gives the living entities freedom to act as they like, but on the other hand, they must accept the body according to the reactions of their activities. In other words, there is karma. Thus, there are different types of bodies. Some living entities have short durations of life, whereas others live for fantastic durations. Every one of them, however, from Brahma down to the ant, acts according to the direction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is sitting in everyone's heart, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 15:15. You see, there's one group of people that don't accept any of this. They're called modern scientists. They don't accept any of these statements. They think that they have to find out what the truth is by their puny or it's very silly in experiments and different types uh, of speculative projects that they engage in. It's just like building a bridge that goes nowhere. they they do so much scientific experimentation, but actually it's all zero. And Prabhupada said you don't have to do any experimentation. All the experimentation has been done already by the great uh, 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 personalities of the universe. All we have to do is follow their instructions. Then you don't make any mistakes. But if you try and experiment, and this is the problem, Prabhupada said, this is the problem of the scientists. They're always doing more and more experimentation, but all the experimentation has been done already by previous acharyas. You simply have to follow their instructions. For example, uh, everybody in a university, everybody, like PhDs in a university, they have to do experimentation and to maintain their position as a, let's say, authority. But all that experimentation that they do is basically useless. They don't really make any spiritual advancement by it. They might get a PhD. They might get uh, an honor for producing something, but it is not actually fundamental or of great you know uh, use for the advancement of Krishna consciousness. For example, producing the atomic bomb, is that beneficial for humanity? And then producing very, very lethal weapons, is that actually beneficial for humanity? And no, they have advanced in ways of killing people faster and more, let's say, devastating. That's that has been their best type of experimentation. They come up with more and more lethal weapons, but that is not really good for society. So we see that there's a false narrative. What is actually real scientific work? It's not to make more uh, uh, lethal weapons. It's rather to understand how to go back to Godhead. That's real scientific work. So unfortunately, people are going in this wrong direction. And in the meantime, they're engaging in all kinds of sense gratification. They're doing a lot of research there how to increase sense gratification, but that is not advancement of human life. Advancement of human life is how to control the minds and senses and engage in the devotional service of the Lord. They're not going in that way, in that uh, in that path of Krishna consciousness. They're going the path of demons, trying to build more and more lethal weapons. And uh, along with those lethal weapons comes a lot of poison and other types of destructive uh, elements, which is completely unnecessary. So, purport. Every living entity who has come to this material world has come here for material enjoyment. Correct statement. But according to his own karma activities, he must accept a certain type of body given to him by material nature under the order of the Supreme Personality of God. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 327, Prakrite Kriyamanani Gunai Karmani Sarvasa. Everything is being done by Prakriti, material nature, under the direction of the Supreme Lord. Now, scientists will not agree with that. Modern scientists do not know why there are varieties of bodies in 8,400,000 forms. Yeah, I mean, they come up with false narratives about it, but they don't know. The fact is that all these bodies are ordained for the living entities by the Supreme Personality of Godhead according to the living entities' desires. He gives the living entities freedom to act as they like, but on the other hand, they must accept a body according to the reactions of their activities. In other words, karma. Thus, there are different types of bodies. Some living entities have short durations of life, whereas others live for fantastic durations. Every one of them, however, are from Brahma down to the ant, acts according to the direction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is sitting in everyone's heart, as confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 15:15. Now, scientists do not accept a statement like that. As confirmed, Sarvasya Chaham Hridhi Sanivisto Matak Smritir Jnanam Apohanam Cha. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. It is not a fact, however, that the Supreme Personality Godhead gives direction to certain living entities in one way and other living entities in another way. The truth is that every living entity has a certain desire, and the Supreme Lord gives him a chance to fulfill it. The best course, therefore, is to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead and act according to his desire. One who does so is liberated. No scientist will do that. They'll say, wait a minute. No, we have to do our experimentation. We have to find new ways and new, let's say, knowledge, paths of knowledge for the advancement of human society. Yeah, we have to make more and more lethal weapons to kill more people faster than what we have now. Like the caveman, he only could kill a few people with his club. Now we have bombs that can kill hundreds, thousands, and millions of people very, very quickly. Okay, so that's the advancement of modern science. They learn how to kill people faster and in larger numbers. Text 14. My dear boy, all of us are bound by Vedic injunction to the divisions of Varnashrama according to our qualities and work. These divisions are difficult to avoid because they are scientifically arranged. We must therefore carry out our duties of Varnashram Dharma like bulls obliged to move according to the direction of a driver pulling on the rope knotted to their noses. Yeah, you can see these big, very powerful bulls, but uh, they have this uh, thing that's round and metal on their nose, and they can control the movement of this very powerful bull by pulling on the nose. In this verse, the words tant yam guna karma damabi are very important. We each get a body according to our association with the gunas, the qualities or modes of material nature, and react accordingly. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, the four orders of the social system, namely Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Sudra, are arranged according to guna and karma. Guna means the uh, type of desire that you have for sense gratification, and karma means what you have done in the past that will determine what you're going to do in the present. Um, uh, so it says that, namely, Brahmanas, Vaishyas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras are arranged according to guna and karma, their qualities and work. There is some controversy about this, however, because some say that since one receives a body according to the guna and karma of his past life, it is one's birth that determines his social status. Others say, however, that one's birth according to the guna and karma of his past life is not the essential consideration, since one can change his guna and karma even in this life. Thank God that that's the truth. Otherwise, we would all be stuck in being nonsense people. Thus, they say that the four divisions of the social order, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Sudra, should be arranged according to the guna and karma of this life. This version is confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam by Narada Muni. While instructing Maharaj Yudhisthira about the symptoms of guna and karma, Narada Muni said that these symptoms must govern the division of society. In other words, if a person born in the family of a Brahmana has the symptoms of a Sudra, he should be designated as a Sudra. Similarly, if a Sudra has Brahminical qualities, he should be designated as a Brahmana. This is completely the opposite of what the nonsense so-called pundits of today are practicing. They say that if you're born in a family of Sudras, you are a Sudra for your whole life. And that's not true. But because they have come up with the false dharma of living entities, many, many problems have been developed due to that false narration of so-called pundits. The Varnashram system is scientific. Therefore, if we accept the divisions of Varna and Ashrama, according to the Vedic instructions, our lives will be successful. Unless human society is thus divided and arranged, it cannot be perfect. As stated in the Vishnu Purana 389, Varnashrama Charavata Purushena Para Pumam Vishnur Aradyate Panta Nanya Tatusakaranam. The Supreme Personality Godhead, Lord Vishnu, is worshipped by the proper execution of prescribed duties in the system of Varna and Ashram. There is no other way to satisfy the Supreme Personality Godhead. One must be situated in the institution of the four Varnas and Ashramas. All of human society is meant to worship Lord Vishnu at the present moment. However, human society does not know that this is the ultimate goal or perfection of life. Therefore, instead of worshiping Lord Vishnu, people have been educated to worship matter. According to the direction of modern society, men think that they can advance in civilization by manipulating matter to build skyscrapers, big roads, automobiles, and so on. Such a civilization must certainly be called materialistic because its people do not know the goal of life. The goal of life is to reach Vishnu. But instead of reaching Vishnu, People are bewildered by the external manifestation of the material energy. Therefore, progress in material advancement is blind, and the leaders of such material advancement are also blind. They are leading their followers in the wrong way. That's a very correct statement. Although uh, modern scientists and philosophers and so-called pundits, they have built skyscrapers and getting higher and higher. Uh, but that does not mean that they have advanced in spirituality. They are falsely claiming to make progress, but the progress they're making is in the wrong direction. So therefore, it is null and void. The real progress is how to control the senses, how to live very simply and engage all your mind and senses on pleasing the Lord Krishna, not building gigantic high rise apartments and not building more and more lethal weapons and not finding different and more, let's say, nonsense ways of sense gratification. That is not advancement. They think it's advancement, but it's not. It is best, therefore, to accept the injunctions of the Vedas, which are mentioned in this verse as Yad Vachi. In accordance with those injunctions, everyone should find out whether he is a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Sudra, and should thus be educated accordingly. Then his life will be successful. Otherwise, all of human society will be confused. If human society is divided scientifically according to the Varna and Ashram, and if, okay, so Varna means what you're materially, uh, let's say, apt to, or materially, uh, let's say, an expert at doing. And ashrama means what your spiritual position is in society. So you might be a very good carpenter, but you are, and your ashrama might be a sudra. So that still is in the Vedic system. Sudra is also in the Vedic system, right? And if the Vedic directions are followed, one's life, regardless of his position, which that's a very important statement, regardless of his position, will be successful. It is not that Brahmanas will be elevated to the transcendental platform, but not the Sudra. If the Vedic injunctions are followed, all of them, Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras, will be elevated to the transcendental platform, and their lives will be successful. This is something that the modern so-called pundits do not accept. But the real Varnashram Dharma is the way that everybody in society, regardless, even if they're a Sudra, they all make spiritual advancement and go back to Godhead if it's done properly. And that's why it says, if the Vedic injunctions are followed, all of them, Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras, will be elevated to the transcendental platform, and their lives will be successful. You see, that's why the system of Varna and Ashrama is for everyone to be liberated, everyone in society to be liberated if they follow the rules and regulations of Varnashram Dharma. The injunctions in the Vedas are explicit directions from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The example cited in this verse is that bulls tied by ropes in their nostrils, here we are, this is what we were talking about before, move according to the direction of the driver. So a bull is really big and strong, but when you have this metal ring in the nose of the bull connected to string, uh, one can control the movement of the bull. Without that, the bull is in command. With it, the bull is obliged to follow the dictation of the person who is pulling the string to the round uh, metal thing in the nose of the bull. So that way the bull has to go straight, left, or right, but he cannot run away. It is best, therefore, to accept the injunctions of the Vedas, which are mentioned in this verse, as Yad Vachi. In accordance with those injunctions, everyone should find out whether he is a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra, and should thus be educated accordingly. Well, I got some bad news for everybody. Everybody is a Shudra in Kali Yuga. But one can be elevated through education and take a position as either a Brahmana, Vaishya, Kshatriya, or Sudra. Then his life will be successful. Otherwise, all of human society will be confused. Well, that's what it is now. If human society is divided scientifically according to the Varna and Ashrama, and if the Vedic directions are followed, one's life, regardless of his position, will be successful. It is not that Brahmanas will be elevated to the transcendental platform, but not the Sudras. Very important statement. If the Vedic injunctions are followed, all of them, Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras, will be elevated to the transcendental platform and their lives will be successful. Well, an example of that is like when we have a festival, right? So uh, some devotees have to, uh, build something, and other devotees have to chant mantras, other devotees have to, drive trucks and so forth. So all the varnas and ashrams are there whenever there's a festival, you see. But they're all going to be liberated because everything they're doing is for the service of Krishna. Right. Not everybody can drive a big truck.
That's true.
You know, not everybody can say all the mantras. Not everybody can do this or that. But if they all work,
Collaborative.
together, then they all become liberated because all their activity is meant to please Krishna. Huh?
Revolve.
Yeah.
That's right.
It is best, therefore, to accept the injunctions of the Vedas, which are mentioned in this verse as Yad Vachi. In accordance with those injunctions, everyone should find out whether he's a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Sudra, and should thus be educated accordingly. Then his life will be successful. Otherwise, all of human society will be confused. If the human society is divided scientifically according to Varna and Ashrama, and if the Vedic directions are followed, one's life, regardless of his position, will be successful. It is not that Brahmanas will be elevated to the transcendental platform, but not the Sudras. Yeah, you need the Sudras also in society for everything to run properly. Otherwise, who's going to do the cooking? Who's going to do the cleaning? You see. So the person who's just washing dishes in the temple, that doesn't mean that he's not going to go back to Godhead. You see. The Sudras are necessary. They're also devotees, but they're necessary. So if the Brahmana, the Kshatriya, the Vaishya, and Sudra work cooperatively, everybody goes back to Godhead. If the Vedic injunctions are followed, all of them, Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Sudras, will be elevated to the transcendental platform, and their lives will be successful. The injunctions in the Vedas are explicit directions from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The example cited in this verse is that bulls tied by ropes in their nostrils move according to the direction of the driver. Similarly, if we move according to the instructions of the Vedas, the perfect paths for our lives will be set. Otherwise, if we do not move in that way, but act according to our whimsical ideas, our lives will be spoiled by confusion and will end in despair. Well, that's what happens to many, many people who start smoking marijuana and engaging in illicit sex and eating meat and so forth. They think they know what they're doing, but no, they are on a path of destruction, self destruction. They're self destructive. They're acting against their own best, let's say, interest. That is unfortunately the very very common thing today. Okay, and then people get serious diseases and they suffer terribly and they die because they've gone in the wrong direction. If the Vedic injunctions are followed, all of them, Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras, will be elevated to the transcendental platform, and their lives will be successful. The injunctions in the Vedas are explicit directions from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The example cited is this verse. In this verse, is that bulls tied by ropes in their nostrils move according to the direction of the driver. Similarly, if we move according to the instructions of the Vedas, the perfect paths for our lives will be set. Otherwise, if we do not move in that way, but act according to our whimsical ideas, our lives will be spoiled by confusion and will end in despair. In other words, deep frustration. Actually, because people at the present moment are not following the instructions of the Vedas, they're all confused. We must therefore accept the instruction by Lord Brahma to Priyavrata as the factual scientific direction leading to success of life. Wow, that's a great statement. Scientific direction leading to the success of life. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 16:23. Ya Shastra Vidimutrija Vartate Kamakarata Sa Na Sasidim Avapnoti Na Sukham Na Param Gatim. If we do not live according to the injunctions of the Shastras, the Vedas, we shall never achieve success in life. To say nothing of happiness or elevation to higher statuses of living. Okay, I think we're going to stop right there. These are very, very powerful statements that we should think of and try and understand so that we can not make the same mistakes life after life and stay always in the uh, let's say, merry-go-round of sense gratification, life after life. Okay, any questions? These are a lot of important points here for having a successful life. That's the whole point. And what is a successful life? It's not building skyscrapers and having more sex. It's chanting Hare Krishna and going back to Godhead. So someone might say, no, 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 we're going to build bigger and bigger skyscrapers. And they're doing that too. The skyscrapers are getting higher and higher. And we're going to go to the moon and we're going to go to Mars. That's never possible. They can say they're going to do that, but they're not, they'll never be able to do it. But they will be able to build skyscrapers and they will be able to engage in sense gratification, but it's all for naught because it all ends up zero. But if you just control your mind and your senses and engage them in the service of Krishna, people might think, wow, this person is not successful. Mm. I have so much money, I have a nice car, I have nice this and that. That's success. But no, uh, look at all the great sages. Did they have big cars and have sex and intoxication? No, they were living like paupers. You know, Sanatan Goswami and others, they were living as if they had nothing, right? But they had everything. They had Krishna consciousness, and they were perfectly happy, and they produced so much knowledge, so many books they've written. You know, we can't even imagine how many books they've written, and all information of how to go back to Godhead in this lifetime. So you see, it all depends on which direction we take in life. If we follow the Vedic injunctions and follow the path of Krishna consciousness as shown to us by the bona fide Vaishnavas like Srila Prabhupada and other great Vaishnavas, then we won't make all these mistakes. But if we don't, then we'll be building skyscrapers. They'll get higher and higher, right? Going to nowhere. You're not gonna solve the problem of life just because you live in a gigantic skyscraper. By the way, in India, they build these very, very high uh, apartments now. Like, you look in the window from the 30th.
Everybody is like in a small land.
Yeah, I mean, I got dizzy, looking outside the window from these high rises in India. They're very high.
Yes.
You know, it's much better to be on the ground, right?
And they are very risky as well in
Yeah,
case of earthquake or anything.
yeah.
Very risky. Yeah, I don't think they're built with all the earthquake proof stuff. When we are on ground, then it's easy to handle the earthquake rather than on the like.
Yeah, last time I was in India, I went to see somebody, and they had a they're like almost the top floor of this high rise. I looked out the window and I got scared. Well, anyway, that's going the wrong direction, by the way. We should go in the right direction. I'd rather be on the ground.
Okay. Any other questions, comments online?